Hi folks, welcome back to engVid with me, your teacher for today, Benjamin. We are looking in today's lesson at idioms with the verb to run. Now, idioms are useful because they help to make your range of expression more interesting, and you can punctuate your speech with the occasional idiom to really show your knowledge of English. You don't want to overuse them, however, because that would appear unnatural. So you want to store them up and bring them out at just the right moment. And you can use these in your social life and at work. So what I'm going to do in this lesson is go through and look at the meaning of each of these. And then at the end, I will show you how to put them kind of into a context by telling you a story. Okay? So, run of the mill. Now, a mill was a relic, something from before we had everything electric. So a mill would be by a river, and it used the force of the water to grind the grain. Yep, to turn, basically to make bread. So run of the mill is like just something normal that comes out of the mill. Yep, quite ordinary, just, a normal bit of bread. Ordinary, okay? To run the risk of. If you run the risk of, it just means you're, whatever you're doing, there is a risk in doing that. For example, by getting in an aeroplane, dare I say it, you run the risk, a small risk, that there could be something that goes wrong. To expose yourself to some sort of risk. If something runs in the family, then think of like water running down. And this, if it runs in the family, it's like a skill or an attribute or a physical characteristic. So if you say to your friend who has ginger hair, it's striking, your hair. It's, unusual. And he might say, or she might say, I know, I like it. I mean, it runs in the family. Obviously, it doesn't have to be about hair color. It could be about musicality. Maybe this is something that your mother was good at and her mum or dad was good, and so it runs in the family. To run like clockwork. I don't know if you've ever seen the film with Ben Stiller and Robert De Niro, in which Ben Stiller's character is trying to sort of join Robert De Niro's family via De Niro's daughter. But this family, he is a kind of an ex-CIA intelligence officer, I believe, and everything runs like clockwork. If they say breakfast is going to be at 8 o'clock, breakfast is at 8 o'clock. If they're going to leave for the airport at 9:55, they go at 9:55. So if something runs like clockwork, it goes exactly according to plan, not a moment too late. Right, in the long run. So this is looking at the long-term picture. In the long run, it may be better for us to start doing business in China than continuing with our operations here in Budapest. I love Budapest, great place to go. So in the long run is talking about the looking into the future and thinking about the impact, the overall long-term impact. You don't want to make someone's blood run cold, because then they're going to feel very, very angry. In cold blood is like when you're so angry you could kill. Now this relates back to a few hundred years ago when the understanding of the physical body was that you had humours in the body that sort of ran through your blood, and you were either, a calm person or an aggressive person. But if your blood goes cold, then you're like, whoa. Okay, to make a run for it, that means you try to escape. So if I have a student and they are in detention, and at the end of the school day, they try and make a run for it, they don't stay for my detention, they are out the door and off they go. Of course, they're not going to get away with it. To be on the run, this is a slight link with the last one. This is more about sort of criminals escaping from prison. So if an escaped convict is on the run, then, they've got out of the prison somehow. And I'm sure you've seen one of those great films about like prison escapes, like Shawshank Redemption. It's a 15, by the way, so ask your parents. Then this is the phrase, to be on the run. Okay. To run around in circles. Now, if you're running around in circles, then, it's very, very busy. You're sort of going here, you're going there, but there's not a huge sense of achieving anything in particular. So I might say that my dog is running around in circles trying to find the ball. Yep. So he's going there. Yep. He's frantically trying to find it, but he's not actually finding it. To run around in circles means to expend a lot of effort without necessarily achieving the desired result. To run a mile. A mile's quite a great distance. Now, it's Halloween at the moment, and I've just been looking at pictures of my son going trick-or-treating. So if he was made up so scarily that when someone opened the door, they ran a mile, it doesn't literally mean that that person runs a mile. It just means that they're like, woo, it's a surprise, it's a shock. So to make someone run a mile means to make them want to escape quickly. I won't give you that example. Slightly. Okay, to run wild. Now, my dad's a great gardener, and he's got some raised beds that he grows his vegetables on. But if he were to go away for a few weeks, he might find that the curly kale, for example, had run wild. So to run wild means to go out of control, like almost how nature intended it to be. To run wild, it's no longer sort of controlled the appearance of this vegetable patch. To run into a brick wall. Ow! So, brick wall, pretty solid, yeah? So if you run into a brick wall, you're coming across a very strong barrier. Yep, it's like a huge obstacle. So if you are trying to, think about me, yeah? I'm teaching this lesson, and if I can't think of an example, if I run into a brick wall, it means, I can't explain it anymore. So a brick wall is like a strong obstacle to you where you can't see any way around. To run out of steam. Now, I imagine this comes from steam railways. So if the engine runs out of steam, then it's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. So if you run out of steam, then you are running out of energy. To give someone a run for their money. It's actually pronounced like to give someone a run for their money. To give someone a run for their money. So what that suggests is that you are up for the challenge. You're like, yeah, I can run fast. Because this guy is like, well, I can run fast. You're like, come on then, let's run. And because we have the phrase for their money, it's like, yeah, I bet like £10 I can beat you in this race. And he's like, yeah, well, bring it on. So if you give someone a run for their money, then you lay down a challenge to a competitor. Okay, so you go, come on then, let's see how good you are. To run circles around them. So we've got this imaginary race, and maybe you are so fast that you can, we're running this way, but it's like you have a turbo booster behind you, and you're able to go, oh, you're still back there, let's go round again. So if you run circles around them, then you are so vastly superior that you are able to almost make it into a joke. To run around like a headless chicken. Sometimes, if you kill a bird, it doesn't quite die when you try and wring its neck. And sometimes poultry, i.e. birds, can be running around whilst missing a head. It's not a very pretty sight. I wouldn't recommend trying to see it anytime soon. I'm not a great advocate. I'm not condoning seeing it, but unfortunately I have seen it before. Now, if you see a headless chicken, what you will notice is that it's in a state of desperation, and its faculties, its abilities have been removed. Now, that's quite a sort of graphic and strong image, okay? But when we use this phrase, it doesn't have that seriousness attached to it. So if you run around like a headless chicken, it's quite innocuous, it's quite an innocent thing to say, okay? It just means that you're running around in a totally kind of crazy way. Right, sorry, I hope I haven't disturbed you. A dry run or a trial run. I would probably use this phrase here more, a trial run. Don't know if you've seen the film Cool Runnings. It's one of my favourite films about the Jamaican bobsled team. So before the actual competition, they get a chance to practice going down the circuit. A trial. Trial means like a test, a practice run. Run here means attempt, effort, go. Okay? Quite a lot of rich content there to get your head round. Yeah, try to forget about the headless chicken. Hope I haven't given you nightmares. And I'm now going to tell you a story about a girl called Billy. Okay, some girls are called Billy. Yeah, Billy Piper, pop singer. Okay, so Billy was an artist. She was a very talented cartoonist, and she was desperately concerned that she didn't end up doing a run-of-the-mill job. She wanted to do something extraordinary. She wanted to make her mark on the world. But her father knew that she ran the risk of ending up poor and broke. He pointed out that it didn't exactly run in the family. None of Billy's ancestors had been artists. Most of them had been accountants and lawyers. Why was Billy trying to do something so controversial? Billy grew up in a household that ran like clockwork. Everything was ordered, a place for everything, and everything in its place, Billy's dad used to say. But Billy was looking for something more. Billy's father kept saying to her, "But Billy, sweetheart, in the long run, it makes much more sense for you to get a sensible job and to settle down." Billy would not listen. She made her father's blood run cold. And one day, she chucked a few belongings into a bag and set off for the bright lights of London town. She had made a run for it, and she felt exhilarated, but also totally terrified because she was essentially on the run. She spent the first few days at friends' houses, staying on their sofas, but she ended up running around in circles because she didn't really know where to go. She knew she had to approach some creative agencies to try and get on their books, to try and get some work. But every time she went and approached someone to try and get work, they said no to her. Billy realized that she needed a more long-term base to go and stay. So she went to go and stay with her aunt and uncle. When she got there, it made her want to run a mile because it was not the existence she had imagined for herself in London. She wanted to run wild and have lots of freedom, but at her aunt and uncle's, this was not going to be the case. She felt like she had run into a brick wall because she was nearer her dreams, but yet not really anywhere close to achieving them either. And after 2 weeks of knocking on doors and sending her CV to lots of different people, she felt that she had run out of steam. She had no energy left. It was a real shame because Billy knew that she could give the best artist a run for their money, but she had no opportunity. She knew that given the opportunity, she could run circles around them. And one day in a cafe, she was just doodling on a piece of paper when an important-looking lady came past and saw what she had done. She was impressed. She said, "Well, you've got some talent. Maybe you should come to our office and we could have a talk about doing some work together." Billy was so excited that when she got home, she ran around like a headless chicken. She was that excited. She told her aunt the good news that she had been given a trial run at one of London's top agencies. Okay, I hope you understood the story. Be a good idea for you now to have a go at doing the quiz, just to make sure that you have understood how these words, these idioms are used in sentence context. Remember what I said at the beginning about how we use idioms. You don't want to be saying them all the time. It's like you have them in your pocket, like it's a secret kind of, it's like a secret lollipop that maybe you give your child when they're really, really upset. It's a bit like that. You just give them out occasionally, okay, for special occasions, okay? And you understand them when you hear them. Hope this has been a useful lesson for you. Thank you very much for watching it. My name's Benjamin. Please make sure you're a subscriber so you get the new videos coming out onto my channel. Until then, I'll see you very soon.